Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's news from Lanzarote. We've got loads of news to share with you this week, but also stay tuned until the end where I will share with you three really interesting things you could be doing if you were on the island next week. But first, I just want to give you a feel for the vibe on the island at the moment, and we'll start with the weather. It's been incredibly hot for November here. Temperatures in the day all week have been in the 30s, falling only to 22, 23 degrees at night, so pretty balmy nights as well. And the island is absolutely rammed with people. And from the conversations I've had with a few of them, it seems that Northern Europe has had a pretty poor few months in terms of lots of heavy rain, and they're fed up with it, and so they've booked holidays to come over here to get some pre-Christmas sun. Now today, it's been absolutely still all week. There's been no wind at all, but today we do have the wind, and it's one of the reasons it's even hotter today than it was earlier in the week, because the wind is drawing hot air directly over us from the nearby Sahara Desert. So I apologise if you can see plants sort of flying around behind me. You might see little wispy seeds. It's that time of year when the seeds from, and I'm going to look up the name here, mountain grass it's called, but it's a succulent plant which covers all the hills around Aria. Those seeds are out now, and they're kind of little wispy white seeds that, I mean, as I look around me now, they're just kind of floating around in the air. So those plants are very prolific at putting their seeds out. So if you see them fluttering around behind me, it isn't snow, they are seeds. Right, well, let's crack on with the news now. We had some good financial news this week from Q3, from quarter three. The Canary Islands are actually leading all of Spain in terms of GDP. Our growth in quarter three was 4.3% against an average for the rest of Spain of 3.4%. And in second place overall in Spain is the Balearic Islands. So the Spanish economy as a whole is doing pretty well at the moment, but the two sets of key islands in the Med and the Atlantic are really leading the way on that growth. And it's no surprise, I guess, because tourism is massively up on these islands and also in the Balearics this year. Now, later this month, we have the annual food festival in Teguise, which is a brilliant event. And if you're on the island for it, you really should go. You'll enjoy it. But the news this week came out that three of Spain's top chefs are actually coming along to be a part of it, and between them they have 8 Michelin stars. I'm going to have to look down at my iPad to read their names to you, but they're Jordi Roca from Sela de Can Roca, Diego Guerrero from D-Stage, and I have a few friends on the island who've been over to D-Stage and have really raved about it, and Edouard Jatruc from Disfrutar. So they are three of Spain's top kind of chef owners visiting the island for the Festival Endogastronimo in Teguise later this month. And it's worth mentioning as well that at the festival, those of you who've been before will know that the process is you go and buy €1 tickets at a little stall as you enter the festival, and you can then hand them over in exchange for food and a glass of wine or a glass of wine. This year they are still running that system, but they are also going to debut a system called Pulsera Cashless, which means cashless bracelet. And effectively you can buy a bracelet, you can then charge it up, and you'll just tap when you want to buy a glass of wine or a little bit of tapa or whatever. And I was interested to see a survey that came out. This isn't really news, I know, but it is interesting, on surnames in Las Palmas, and the 5 most common surnames in Las Palmas, which of course is where Lanzarote sits, are in order: Rodriguez, Santana, Gonzalez, Hernandez and Garcia. Now, one of the interesting things about the way last names work in Spain is that when children are born, they take a surname each from their mother and from their father. So, for example, if I had been born to Smith and Brown, my name would be Michael Smith Brown. So that's how it works. But what's interesting is where you get commonality of surnames, as we have here, you get quite a lot of people who have the same name twice. So I could be Miguel Rodriguez, for example. Now, two very sad stories this week, and it concerns two losses of life in Puerto del Carmen. The first was an 81-year-old German man whose body was found floating just off Playa Grande, found by Emeland, the rescue service down there. We don't have any further information on it, but our understanding is that he simply died while out swimming off the beach. The second one, very concerning, is a 34-year-old British male who was a tourist on the island, and his body was found early in the morning on Monday on Playa Chica in Puerto del Carmen, and initial accounts suggest he took his own life. We don't know for sure, and we're waiting for confirmation of that, but either way, our thoughts are with the families of both of those people who lost their lives this week here. Now, I mentioned at the top that we've had very, very low winds and glassy smooth ocean until today, this week, and that has resulted in loads and loads of migrant boats coming over from Africa, from the sub-Saharan area, Maghreb. In total, from last weekend and this week, the number was around 1,500. I gather 1,000 of them have already been shipped out to Gran Canaria, so the load isn't too big on the island this week, but also many have lost their lives. And I think the count was at least a dozen last time I looked, including children, which is desperately sad. We have more flights coming here this winter from Denmark, Norway and Luxembourg. The flights from Denmark, the passenger numbers have increased from 558 to 743. The available seats from Oslo have doubled from 185 to 370, and we have an additional flight from Bergen, with 3 more flights coming each week from Luxembourg. No. Start again. We have more flights coming in this winter from Denmark, Norway and Luxembourg. We've increased the number of seats from Denmark from 558 to 743. There's an additional weekly flight from Bergen, which doubles the numbers available from there. And we have 3 flights a week now coming in directly from Luxembourg. And Luxembourg, although it's a relatively small country, acts as a bit of a transport hub for the countries all around it. I was really irritated by this story, and I saw the video of it. 2 tourists on the island of La Graciosa, they were Italian, quite young, decided that it was a good idea to carve their names into the rock of Montaña Amarilla over there, which of course is the whole area, the whole of La Graciosa is a protected area. They carved their names in the rocks despite the fact that people from the path were shouting and whistling to tell them to stop. And they just kept going until they'd finished. I don't know if the police have caught up with them yet. I mean, you can see their names carved into the rock, so it shouldn't be that hard to track them down. But I really do not understand it. What on earth were they thinking? Now, we have work inspectors on all of the Canary Islands at the moment, visiting shops, bars and restaurants and hotels and all other kinds of business establishments. And their objective is to go and make sure that workers in those establishments, A, have a proper contract to be working there, and B, that their contract reflects the actual hours that they are working. And so far this year, they've found 5,000 cases across the Canaries where people either didn't have work contracts or they had work contracts for much lower hours than they were actually doing for their companies. I personally, I have no sympathy with this. I think, if you can't take on an employee properly here, then don't take them on at all. Or make your business more efficient so that you can afford to do so, pay them properly and give them a proper contract and the protection that the employees deserve. The Guardia Civil arrested a 36-year-old man in Playa Blanca this week, and he's been responsible for a whole spate of burglaries, over the last few months, and he'd accumulated around 25,000 euros worth of stuff that he'd stolen in these burglaries. It seems he became more and more brazen, and he was filmed on CCTV cameras breaking into an apartment complex in Playa Blanca as part of a police sort of net closing in on him, and they managed to catch him red-handed, and he's been arrested and will be charged with a number of burglaries, as many as 25, when he goes to court. Now, Lanzarote's had a fantastic response to the disastrous floods in Valencia. Emilan, that are our emergency services people, have sent a team over there. They are helping with the clear-up operation using specialised 4x4 vehicles with pumps on them. We've also sent a drone team over from the military airfield here that are going to putting up drones over Valencia to help identify where there are people in need of help. And we've also sent a canine unit who are going to help with identifying where there are, sadly, bodies that need to be removed as soon as possible. In addition to that, the team that raised so much money here for the emergency services during COVID have put together a concert that will be in aid of the people of Valencia. And it's called Lanzarote Rocks for Valencia. And if you go to the What's On pages of Lanzarote information, you'll be able to see all of that. That's taking place on the 17th of November. So go to what'son.lanzaroteinformation.co.uk, click list view, and then select the date, the 17th of November, and you'll be able to see all the information about that. If you can't make it, and because you're not on the island at that time, there is a link there to a GoFundMe so that you can make a donation. And now, as promised, 3 things that you should be doing if you're on Lanzarote this week and next. And the first one is a truly magical event. It's the Concierto en Vela, which is the candlelight concert which takes place annually in Arrecife on Charco San Ginés. And this year it's the Lanzarote Chamber Orchestra in combination with opera singers, and it's titled A Night at the Opera. That takes place on Saturday the 9th at 8:30. And what they do is they put the stage and the singers out on the water in the Charco. Anyone can visit free of charge. You can hang out around the Charco and watch and listen to the concert, and there'll be candlelight all across the water. It's a beautiful, beautiful evening. So if you're here on the 9th, please go to it. Next up, and yes, Christmas is getting very close. On Friday the 15th, which is next Friday, we have the big Christmas light switch on at 2 of Lanzarote's best known commercial centres or shopping centres. The first is at Dayland in Playa Honda, and the second is at the Biosfera Centre in Puerto del Carmen. You won't be able to go to both. You'll have to choose one, so go to the one that's nearest to you, because they both start at 6:30 in the evening. But Santa Claus will be there for sure. There's going to be entertainment, drinks, special events, and sales going on at both of those. So if you're here on Friday the 15th, go along either to Dayland in Playa Honda or to the Biosfera in Puerto del Carmen. Now, I've already mentioned the Lanzarote for Valencia event, which takes place on the 17th of November. But the other thing you might want to look at, as well as doing that one, is on the 16th of November, Gran Karting Lanzarote, which is the kart track on the road from the airport going towards Matagorda, just after the 2 gas stations there. They're having a family event where they've got lots of high-performance cars there. There'll be a live DJ, there'll be food and drinks, and a chance also for you to race on the track. But if you're into cars, I mean, I'm just looking at the list of the cars they are telling us are going to be there. They include several Porsches, some Ferraris, 3 different Nissan Skylines going from R33 to R35, a Honda NSX, which I'd love to see, a Mazda RX-7, Toyota Supras, and many, many motorcycles. And they've got some interesting sounding events like donut events and who has the loudest exhaust event. So if you're a bit of a petrol head, as I am, that might be something you want to go and do on the 16th of November. And that's it for this week. I forgot earlier, but I will do it now to remind you, if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please do so. I will put a link up in a minute to our What's Lanzarote Like at Christmas video for those of you who haven't been here at Christmas before and are curious to know what it's like. Please give this video a like if you do indeed like it. Leave a comment or a question. I read them all. I will certainly answer your questions. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again same time next week. Bye for now.